All right, welcome in. I'm the Kodiak, and today I'm here to talk about 5 lessons that we learned against the Carolina Panthers from the Denver Broncos in their 28-14 win. But before we get into it, leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're not already, drop a comment, let me know what you agree with, let me know what you disagree with, follow me on Twitter at Kodiak Broncos, and let's get right into it. So number one, the NFL world still hates Sean Payton. So I've seen Twitter and Reddit and just a bunch of other places where, yes, I know you don't get great football discussion on those threads. I've seen a lot of people call out Sean Payton over the past year and a half in particular, mainly last year when we started out really bad. But overall, just for people thinking that he was, egotistical, narcissistic, but he didn't actually have the record to back it up, just based on the fact that he did not capitalize on another chance to win the Super Bowl with Drew Brees, and when they had their second window open, from 2017 to 2021. And J.C. Horn after the game says the Broncos were, running trick plays. And yeah, sure, I will say that. But they weren't just running up the score. They played Miami last year, and Miami was still, throwing bombs downfield, still ripping off huge runs, and nobody ever complained about them running up the score. And when he was in his post-game presser and he said that Carolina was not a good football team and that they're going to be playing against better offenses, I am so glad that Sean Payton is a pragmatic coach who says, okay, you guys took care of business, but let's be honest, you have Baltimore next week. It's not going to be as easy. And everything he has said publicly about other teams ages very, very well. And, last year he went on that rant about the Jets, behind closed doors, by the way. I still can't believe that article was actually published, but everything he has said publicly about the Jets has aged almost embarrassingly well. How last year, they signed Dalvin Cook, and then suddenly casuals were just like, wow, this team might win the Super Bowl. And now they have a 2-6 record, and Nathaniel Hackett has been demoted as the offensive coordinator. So yeah, he called them out for trying to win the offseason and not actually realizing that work needs to be done on the field. And I felt like a lot of that went back to 2022 in our offseason when we beat the Cowboys in the joint practice, and everyone was like, wow, oh my God, we won the day, like no doubt about it. And overall, like Sean Payton, everything he has said has been very correct, and I can't wait to see this age well. Like, he is not wrong in what he said about Carolina, but the message to the team, I feel like that gets lost. For better or for worse, Carolina's a struggling football team right now, and I don't think he meant any shade. It's not like he publicly name-dropped Canales. He didn't name-drop Young or anything like that, but yeah. So, number 2, Bo Nix took care of business this week against Carolina. So there was no excuse for this to be a growing pains game. Nix had to have looked fantastic. The Broncos had to have won by a lot. Sorry, I kind of ran over my words there. But Bo Nix passed with flying colors, particularly throwing deep. And honestly, the footwork is getting better. But, with that becomes, okay, you're probably going to take a sack or two extra per game than you would have taken had you, been not coaching that out of him. And, honestly, I think it's just going to be better for the team because this passing game looked great today. I'm very happy with how he played because there is no doubt about it. This is the first game you can look at this year and be like, okay, Bo Nix was by far the best player on the field today. Anytime we touched the ball or anytime we had an offensive play, particularly in the second quarter, I was like, we're going to score. I was like, we are going downfield. We're going to score. And Carolina couldn't stop him. Even the broadcasters were like, okay, in the final seconds of the first half, they were just like, I mean, why would you think not, try to go downfield? You can't stop Bo Nix. Like, everything has worked for the Broncos offense today, and I'm really, really happy with how he played. But the team still left a lot of plays on the field, so this is something that the whole team has to work on. Lil'Jordan Humphrey cannot fumble on the first drive of the game because that's free momentum for the other team. And honestly, had that fumble not happened, I mean, you don't really know how the game would be different from there on out. But there's a pretty good chance that Carolina does not score at all because, first quarters, they've been a problem for the Broncos this year. They've been a problem at home in particular. They've been a problem offensively. They've been a problem defensively. I mean, at least at home. Defensively, first halves have been fine on the road. But Sean Payton has said this. He said that, we can't have Lil'Jordan Humphrey fumble on the first drive of the game. We can't have Courtland Sutton fumble at the 1-yard line, even though we had a big lead. We can't have Marvin Mims, not even be looking at where the football is And with his speed, if he catches that football, you don't know what happens. So Sean Payton knows this. He said so in the presser that they were not good around him. And Javonte's, so I'm kind of interested to see if they add at the trade deadline. And Javonte's up and down season continued. There's some weeks where we're just like, okay, Javonte's totally cooked. That knee injury completely did him in. He's nowhere close to what he was as a rookie. And then there's some weeks where we're just like, okay, rookie Javonte's kind of back. And this was one of those days where he was averaging sub 3 yards per carry. And, unfortunately, that's just been a part of the Javonte Williams season this year, or experience this year. And I think that, unfortunately, it's not going to get that much better. Jaleel McLaughlin was effective when he came in, but at the same time, I don't know. Was hoping the run game would be a little better, but overall, can't really be too terribly upset with how they played. And one thing I will say with this, even though it's a negative, and me saying that the team still left a lot of plays on the field, the tight ends finally had productive days. I believe it was either Krull or Trautman who went 4 for 85. We've been missing that. And then Adkins obviously caught that pass, and, Trautman helping our quarterback. And that's been missing from this team this year. A lot of times this year I'm just thinking, okay, why don't we be an NFL tight end? Why don't we make the tough catch? Why don't we help out our young quarterback? And, they did very, very well in this department today. Once again, you are not going to play in a team as bad of Carolina, but, this can be a building block for something. Confidence is very, very real in the NFL. Momentum is very real in the NFL. And I'm just hoping that some of this can carry over into what we'll need for our tough games upcoming against Baltimore and KC, and then Atlanta, and then a road game against Las Vegas. So number 4, defense played a tad bit worse than I was expecting. Obviously not upset with how they played, but even though, the Panthers were at midfield, I didn't like the first quarter start. The main thing that bothered me was, from that first quarter start, was Carolina having 1st and goal from the 19-yard line, and they still found a way to get into the end zone. They still found a way to score a touchdown, especially because Xavier Legette caught that pass against Patrick Surtain. And I don't know, maybe they have something with Patrick Surtain, or with Xavier Legette. Maybe they have something with Jalen Coker. But one thing I did not like about our game today in particular is Riley Moss. He'd been a really, really good player, but, this was easily his worst game so far. Coker, he just seemed to get the better of him. Now, luckily, Riley Moss has been anytime he has a semi-questionable game this year, he bounces back. Like week 1 against Seattle, I thought Lockett kind of had his way with him. But then the week after that, Riley Moss played very, very well, and he continued to play very, very well. Regardless, Carolina, they seem to have something with Jalen Coker, and I just didn't like Riley Moss's game today. The pass rush really got going in the second half, but obviously that you were up by multiple scores and all that. So yeah, they really got going in the second half, and the secondary got going as well. Made a couple plays on Bryce Young. Obviously, Surtain had that interception that just kind of fell into his hands, but McMillain with the pick of the century. Yeah. So the defense, they played a tad bit worse than I was expecting, and I forgot to touch on this point. So just because they played a tad bit worse than I was expecting, that doesn't mean they played terribly. But for being probably the number 1 most streamed fantasy defense this week, just because of the optics of the game, you had Denver at home going against a guy who has had no NFL success thus far. I was expecting the team to be a little bit more smothering. I was expecting maybe 5-6 sacks, maybe another pick. But, 2 picks, so they did get 2 picks, so, whatever. But what I will say is the front 7 and the secondary both adjusted very well to the screen-heavy game plan, and obviously that's going to take the equation of picks and sacks out of the equation there. But the pass rush, they really got going in the second half, and I think the pressures will still hold up overall from the game, but I just wish they started a little faster. Maybe wish they could have made a few more plays. Wish Riley Moss covered a little better. But you know what? We won the game, and honestly, the only time Carolina ever had a fighting chance was after the first drive, and then they really, really, really ended up not getting anything going. So yeah, but I'm proud of how the defense adjusted. And number 5, this coaching staff deserves massive props. They've won every game they should have this year, and they took 2 games that nobody expected them to. You went into Tampa Bay, a September early morning game, in Florida, week 3. And week 3, 2023, you lost 70-20 against the Dolphins. Week 3, 2023 this year, you beat, at the time, what was a very good Tampa Bay team that was coming off a really brutal loss to, or a really, really good win against the Detroit Lions, and then the Jets, who are an 8-point favorite. And that was the game that kind of sent the Jets into freefall mode, because the Jets, they were coming off 10 days rest, and they had beat New England pretty handily that day. And then they ended up losing to New England today. But Sean Payton and this entire coaching staff, the Panthers, they deserve a lot for what they've put into this team as well. They deserve their props. 12-7 since their 1-5 start last year, with an untalented offensive roster and spotty QB play. The skill position group is still a work in progress, and they're probably going to add to it sometime within the next week. But it's time for the front office to pull their weight and get us some weapons for our young quarterback, because he played a great game today, and he has shown that he at least deserves the chance, no matter what happens the rest of the year. He at least deserves the chance for, next year and going forward as well. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.